Alright guys, welcome back. It's been a little while since we've recorded a video, but this one is for completing the square, which some of my classes are working on right now. I'm going to combine completing the square and square root property all into one. Most of you guys have seen me do this in class, and it doesn't really increase the steps that much. So now we're just going to combine them into a much shorter video. So this video is going to move kind of quickly. If you need a detailed run through, feel free to take a look at the other one, which I'm going to relabel right this second while I'm recording. It's labeled fourth and fifth period, but I'm going to relabel it as completing the square. I will re-upload a long version of that eventually. All right. So completing the square plus square root property. It's real simple, and a lot of you guys already know this. Alright, so this first part is going to be completing the square. These first like 3 steps are all completing the square. And here's what you have to do with that. What you're going to do is, first step is you're going to move C. Okay, move C to the other side. And keep in mind that you're not just physically moving it, you have to do something here. So in this case, we're going to subtract 4 from both sides, okay? But your idea is to move C. So you'll get x squared plus 8x, and then 4 minus 4 is 0, and 11 minus 4 is 7. So you end up here. Now we have to solve for C. So solve for new C, or the C that's going to complete your square, okay? So C is going to complete my square. That's why it's called completing the square. One of my students used the term perfecting the square. So basically what you're going to do is this is going to end up being a trinomial perfect square. And most of you guys are very good at the square root property when I give you that perfect square. Now you just have to create it, okay? And you do that to solve for new C using, you're going to use the formula b over 2 squared. Okay, b over 2 squared. And we're going to go ahead and do that now. So our b term is 8. So this is just 8 divided by 2 squared, which is 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So you just have to add 16 to both sides. Okay, so once you've found your new c, you're going to add your new c to both sides. Both sides. And these 3 steps concludes what, oops, sorry about that, I dragged that. These 3 steps conclude what you're going to do for completing the square. Alright, so we'll add 16 to both sides. Alright, so we're just going to, let me do this in a different color. You're going to add 16, 6, and add 16. I'm going to get the other blue marker, maybe it'll show a little clearer. So now that we add 16, we're going to get x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 7 plus 16 is 23. Alright, and from here, this is run-of-the-mill square root property, which everyone has gotten pretty good at this point. So what you're going to do is you're going to do all of your regular steps. And actually, I'm going to start this on a new sheet of paper. That way, completing the square and square root property are on 2 separate sheets of paper. But you've already completed the square here because now you've got that 16, and we can take the square root of that and get that. So we're all good. That makes everything great, okay? And that's what you're going for. So this is a complete square. And then now we'll do our regular process, but I'm going to mix it all into the same like step-by-step process. So step 4 here is going to be factor the left side, factor left side, left. Alright, and so let's go ahead and factor this out real quickly. So remember to factor this out, you factor this by taking the square root of 16. You know that's 4. So it's going to be x and 4. It's going to be squared. And then we have to determine this plus or minus sign. To determine this plus or minus sign, you take a look at your b term. You got a positive 8, so this has to be 2 plus 4. It's going to be x plus 4 times x plus 4. Okay? So again, you just factor the left side by taking the square root of this. If you did this right, it should work out perfectly. As long as you found the right c, you use your b over 2 squared, and you got the right answer, this should be easy, and all you have to do is take the square root of this new term. Square root of 16 is 4. So we just put it in there, and then we determine whether or not it's plus or minus by looking at our b term. Okay? Equals 23. Next step. Square root both sides, square, I'm going to shorten this a little bit, root both sides. So let me go ahead and rewrite everything. X plus 4 squared equals 23. And then we're going to square root everything. Oh, you guys can't see that. I'm going to go ahead and move it up. Alright, so we're going to square root both sides. All good. And from here on out, your 6th step Well, actually, I guess I should go ahead and solve it. So when you take the square root of a square, it's going to cancel out. So these two will cancel, and you'll just get x plus 4 equals, and over here you would simplify this if you could. 23 happens to be a prime number, so in my example I can't really do anything with it except this. Don't forget your plus minus. Alright, so after I've square rooted both sides, my sixth step is to solve for x. Solve for x. Alright, so we got to get that x alone, so it was x plus 4 equals plus or minus 23, but we need to move this 4, minus 4, minus 4. Alright, and you're going to end up here. You're going to have 4 minus 4 is 0. That's why we did that whole minus 4 part. It was to get rid of that 4. And now over here, I've just got my negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 23. And you could get a decimal here if you really wanted to, but that's not what I'm requiring by any means. This is a complete answer here, and we're good. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through all 6 of those steps again. So I kept calling it a 5-step process, but that's because in my head I mixed some of these steps together, but I guess it's a 6-step process. Move C to the other side by adding or subtracting. So if this was a negative number, we'd want to add it. This was a positive number, so I subtracted. Okay. After you've moved C from the other side, you need to find your new C using this formula, b over 2 squared. As soon as you can do that, you'll find your thing, and you'll just add your new C to both sides. Alright, let me go ahead and get this whole thing on screen for you all at once. That way you can take these notes just in case you need them. Alright, so that's that entire page. Feel free to pause here. I'm going to go and move to the next page. Alright. And then over here, this is your square root property part. So this is a little different than the completing square because you've already completed the square. And so you'll factor your left side. And this right side stays the same. You'll square root both sides. The square root and the square cancel. You got that. Plus or minus square root of 23. Solve for x. And then you'd be done here. Again, this could go a little further if this was like a, I don't know, 25, because then you would get that this equals plus or minus 5 or something like that. But for the most part, this is it. This process is going to be the same. It's going to be the same 6 steps. Okay, so you guys just follow. Oh, let me get all on the screen. Just follow those 6 steps, and you will be fine. All right, guys. Best of luck for some of my classes. You guys have a quiz tomorrow. Some of you guys have a quiz in a few days. In any case, this should help out. Let me know if you have any questions. Contact me by email or phone. Best of luck. Bye.